Casey Joyner, ESPN.com, NFL Insider, going to join me here. I know, Casey, when we had talked, you were a fan of Sam and thought that he would be a great fit, and so far it has not worked out. I was on your side. I really thought that he would be a great fit, and coming in here so far through 3 games, I'm not ready to bail on him, but what have you seen that has been some of the major issues with him in this offense?
He's not getting vertical passing done, that's for sure. He ranks last in the league in most vertical passing metrics. That's where you're trying to throw the ball at least 11 yards downfield, stretch the field. So that was a strength of his in the past. It's not a strength of his now. He looks jittery in the pocket because he's getting terrible pass blocking, which you wouldn't have expected given Chip Kelly's history both at Oregon and in his first couple years with Philadelphia. They don't have a vertical threat, so he's not able to get people open deep. He's making bad decisions, one in each game, which if you make 16 bad decisions in a season, you're going to be the worst bad decision maker in the league in that category. So, you can pick your metric, and he's just struggling in every way, but I think it all starts with the running game and blocking up front.
We're talking with Casey Joyner here. Now, one of the things, people have been asking in this area is they have not thrown the ball down the field. Is that something, you've seen the tape, you just said, that's something, is that something that he is good at? I think people are starting to question whether or not he's a guy who can throw the ball down the field.
If he doesn't think he can step into throws, if he's questioning the pass blocking, because you got to figure that, I don't want to get too psychological here, but you got to figure that's part of his history, is that he's been banged up and injured, especially the past couple of years. So, if he starts feeling pressure around him, it might be something where, he starts to rush passes. But when you look at his history, he was a top 5 passer in vertical and stretch vertical passing back in 2013 when he played that half season with the Rams. He was a great downfield passer at Oklahoma. He was pretty good at it even earlier before his 2013 season with the Rams. I mean, he's got a history of being being able to put up quality production downfield. So it's not a matter of, okay, this is a dink and dunk guy who we're trying to throw downfield. This is something he's done before.
Right, and that's one of the things I think people are wondering is this something that he excelled at in the past? Is this something that he was good at in his previous stop down there in St. Louis? Because, all right, they're not taking shots down the field. Is it they don't have the personnel? That's not the offense. That is, there's been a lot of questions here. Is it the scheme or is it Sam that is holding them back?
I don't think it's Sam that's holding them back. I think it's the scheme. I think it's they're not being able to produce because, again, Chip Kelly has a run-first offense, the fast-paced running team, and if they cannot run that offense, then they're not going to get people open because that's how they get people open. They get people open not by saying, okay, we're going to play call things to, okay, we're going to run certain types of plays to get somebody open deep. Okay, we're going to get the safety to bite here. Their whole thing is if we get you to commit full board or stopping our running game, we get you to put that extra player in the box that bring that safety up and only have one safety playing deep. We're going to get one-on-one coverage on the outside, and we figure that we can get any receiver open if he's in a one-on-one situation. That's what it all boils down to. That's how they play call their people open. So the running game isn't working, and you don't get the safety in the box. You don't get single coverage on the outside, and you're not getting people open like you would otherwise. So, I mean, it all stems from up front.
Right. So, theoretically, Nelson Aguilar, Jordan Matthews, and Huff to some extent, I guess, Riley Cooper, do they have the personnel, though, to take shots down the field? Should this be a team that is, earlier we were talking with one of the Eagle beat writers, and he said in 2013, 20 yards or more, 80 plays. Last year, 63. They're on pace for 37 plays of 20 yards or more. Do they have the personnel to be able to go down the field?
No, they don't have a receiver who could tear the top off of defense. I mean, when they got here, it was Macklin and Deshaun Jackson. Then it was Macklin, which is fine because Macklin can still run. He's good on deep passes. That's the specialty of his. So you're fine there. Now they don't have anybody who can get open deep downfield, and it becomes a lot more difficult. Again, if you're running Kelly's system, you're still going to be able to take enough plays, enough shots downfield. But right now they don't have anybody who a defense is worried about and said, hey, we got to, this is something we got to be concerned about. Here's the thing, though. When you look at, say, what Tom Brady's doing up in New England, and I don't want to compare this offense to New England offense, but Tom Brady doesn't have great vertical numbers either. Or he hasn't, the past couple of years, and he still puts up really good numbers. How does he do it? They build a game plan around dink and dunk passing, but that's not something that Kelly's going to do. He's not going to say we're going away from my system to a dink and dunk passing offense. He's still going to run a system. So, there are options to get around this if you want to.
So far, would you say that the quarterback is holding the Eagles' offense back?
No, I say that the offensive line is holding the Eagles' offense back.
Now, Is this both in run and pass coverage? I mean, some people have suggested that he's getting time in the passing game, that admittedly they're struggling in the run game, but a lot of people here think that the pass blocking has been adequate.
Yeah, it's been adequate, but if you've got the defense sitting back in coverages and you've got the defense, playing to stop the deep pass, and the Kelly system is not where, there are quarterbacks where it's okay. If it's, hey, fine, it's think about Brett Favre. If it was covered deep, he's still going to throw the ball in there, and he's going to hit some plays because he's willing to take those chances. I think Bradford's been coached up to say, if you've got coverage over the top, do not throw that pass. And for the most part, he's not doing that. And frankly, when he is doing that, he's forcing passes into coverage. So I think it's one of those things where, again, the Eagles don't have. We've been talking about this for a few years now. The Eagles don't have a plan B if plan A is not working. And when Bradford is taking those shots downfield, I think they're ill-advised because their desperation passes more than they are, we're going to go ahead and just try and take a shot downfield. I think he's making desperation throws, and that's leading to those bad decisions we talked about.
Let me ask you about the run game. Last week, 100 yards for Matthews. Murray obviously making a lot of money. Murray won the rushing championship last year. My opinion entering the year, Casey, was I thought Matthews was a more talented back, just didn't have the accolades, didn't play for Dallas, didn't have the resume. You watch Murray and Matthews, who's a better fit for this offense?
Matthews. I agree. Murray can do some things. Murray's the guy. I think his best fit for this offense is you put him out there and you make him the one, the guy you play early on to wear the defense down, and you use Matthews and Sproles to finish the defense off. Plus, you can use Murray too. My concern about Murray is he had great usage at Oklahoma. He was, a very durable back there. Then he comes in the pros. The first few years, he's not very durable. Then he gets to the contract year, and he has record durability. Now he's got that contract, and now he's back to being banged up again. So I'm wondering, is this a contract guy? Is he somebody who steps up when he's got a contract up for renewal? And when he doesn't, then he's not the same guy. If that's the case, then you're not going to get 250 carries out of him, and you got to hope that you can get Matthews to give you those 250 carries, which, given his history, is not something you're guaranteed to do. So it's they came into the season looking like they had three really good running backs, and now if there are durability question marks for the top two, now do you have any running backs you can count on for 16 or for 13 more games?
Yeah, and you watch Matthews. What do you think he brings or it adds differently? Because Chip has kind of said they're very similar. That's why we brought them here, so that basically one can interchange the other. That if one got hurt, we didn't have to change our style. What do you think that Matthews adds that Murray maybe is lacking?
I think Murray's a downhill runner, so you're going to have to run certain types of plays with him. I think Matthews is a bit of a shiftier guy, and for the Jets game, the Eagles had to go more to the outside because they weren't getting they aren't getting blocking up front. If you're not getting blocking up front, their two options were but the Cowboys were just pinning their ears back, getting upfield. You can either trap those guys and try and run up the gut that way, or you can say, okay, you're going to go straight upfield. We're going to run to the perimeter, and that's going to neutralize what you're trying to do up the middle. So the Eagles were going to more perimeter plays. They did better blocking than they had in the Dallas game. It's hard to do worse. But that's something that Matthews can do, I think, is get more to the perimeter than Murray can. Murray's a downhill guy. You've got to be able to use him on gap plays and cutback plays where I think if you want to get Matthews to the outside, you can.
Casey Joyner's with us, ESPN.com, NFL Insider, of course, every Thursday looking at the matchups in this game. All right, Washington's defense, 58 points this year. Are they legit on defense? Is this a tough matchup for Philly? I mean, they've got the best defense in the NFC East. I don't know what that says, but they've been better than New York, Philadelphia, and Dallas. And people think that Philly's defense has been pretty good.
Philly's defense, I think they have been pretty good. They've got, in fact, Philly's defense, I've got some run blocking metrics, run defense metrics where I measure how often the ball carriers are getting good blocking, how productive they are when they get good blocking. You can measure that from the defensive side of the ledger, too. And in all the major categories I have in good blocking for defenses, Philadelphia's defense is playing better than Washington's. In fact, Washington's defense right now is allowing opposing ball carriers to get good blocking, opposing offensive lines to get good blocking 47.5% of the time. 40% is the league average, and you want to be around 35% if you're doing really well. So they're, 12 points worse than average. So, I mean, you can run the ball against this team. This should be a game if the first three matchups, first 3 weeks of the season are any indication that Philadelphia ought to be able to run the football, and that we can see, okay, is Bradford the quarterback we all thought he was? Because if they can get the run game going, then we can start answering some of these questions about where the problems are.
They're also banged up in their secondary. John Keim over at NFL Nation, ESPN.com, said they could be without their top 2 corners So, I mean, is this a situation where the Redskins defense might be, very vulnerable on Sunday?
I think first couple of weeks, I remember I posted something about when they let Amerson go. They let David Amerson go. The Redskins did. I said, the Amerson, they let go of the Amerson. He couldn't even play in one of the worst secondaries in the league. And Washington fans got really upset with me that I was impugning their defense and saying how bad they are. Well, they didn't look very good last week. Their secondary is not very good. I still think Bashar Breeland is not very good. I still think that most of their cornerbacks are subpar. They are what I call green-rated cornerbacks, guys who you want to target in matchups. And so I think Philadelphia's got a couple, 3 different potential green-rated matchups in the secondary. I think the run defense is a highly favorable situation. It's going to depend on the weather probably, but if the weather's pretty good, this is the sort of matchup that should be, at least on paper, highly favorable for the Eagles' offense.
Flip it over to the other side. Washington, they've got Morris, they've got Jones. They obviously like to run the football. Is this an offense that should be able to score points against this Eagles defense, or do you like the matchup for Philly's defense?
I mentioned that good blocking rate metric. In all 3 weeks this season, Washington's good blocking rate has been below average. They had a great game against St. Louis because they broke off a few big plays, and that's the concern against Philadelphia, too. Philadelphia can play consistent and then let you get a big play or two, and that's something you got to watch out for. But from a consistency perspective, this defense should be able to stop the Washington running game, and the Washington doesn't have, because Deshaun Jackson's not going to play, they don't have people in their receiving core, or at least he's probably not going to play. They don't have people in the receiving core who are going to be able to threaten this defense deep. It's just Garcon's a possession guy. They've got Roberts. They've got Jamison Crowder. And they've got some pedestrian players. This is not a matchup that, if I'm looking at it from a Eagles defensive perspective, that makes me go, wow, this is something I'm concerned about.
Casey Joyner, ESPN.com, NFL Insider, every Thursday here. If you're the Eagles last year played Cousins. He had over 400 yards in that game. Obviously, that was one of his better days. What has his problems been? What if they elected to go to Cousins, what do they see in him that was their decision?
He doesn't make a lot of bad decisions. He only has a 0.8 bad decision rate so far this year. He doesn't force passes in the coverage for the most part. I've seen him make some really boneheaded passes where you go, what were you thinking? But he doesn't do it on a on a consistent basis, and he's willing to run their game plan and say, okay, I'm going to stick with what the game plan is. I'm not going to try and freelance. I'm going to do, I don't want to say, use the term good soldier, but that's really what he is. He says, I'm going to do what the game plan says I should do, and that's, you want that, and Washington, they build their game plan for, they built their team to work around a certain type of game plan, and he's willing to run it. But I don't look at Cousins and say, okay, this is a guy who is a matchup that you're really concerned about. It's just, he's going to be a very high percentage guy, and you've got to put him in the situations where he makes low percentage plays.
Casey, I want to ask you about the Eagles secondary because they were awful the last 2 years. Kerry Williams, Bradley Fletcher, Nate Allen at safety. They've replaced those guys with Maxwell, who, has been, I would say, average, not great, maybe good at times, but, maybe better than what they've had in the past. Nolan Carroll, Eric Rowe stepped up and made some plays last week. The Eagles, have they upgraded enough at that position to say that this is a playoff-level defense?
We talked last year about the number of times that the Eagles had a blown coverage in their secondary where they just screwed up and didn't cover somebody. Something happened where somebody was just left wide open. They're not beating you physically. They're beating you mentally. You're not doing your job. Right now, and this is just a preliminary grade, but right now, I have Philadelphia graded as having none of those blown coverages. They're still getting beat sometimes. Maxwell plays 25 yards off and lets Terrence Williams score that touchdown. But that's the coverage is telling you to play that far off. That's not a mental error that's leaving a guy wide open. So from that perspective, if they're closing up those gaps and they're not making those errors, that's already a huge step forward. So for all the troubles they're having so far this year, that's a bright spot.
Yeah, it seems that people are, in the last couple of years, you kind of looked at the Eagles' defense, and they had played some good games, but I don't know that people bought into them. I think people think that this defense, they got more talent. There's no question about that, but people are starting to say, you know what, is this a team that is I don't want to say, are they a defensive-minded team, or you got a Chip Kelly team? Are they a defensive-minded team?
Funny thing is that, they can be more defensive-minded. The Chip Kelly defense is built to play with the lead and go rush the quarterback and make interceptions. That's right. What his defense is designed to do. But they haven't been able to play with that lead, and they're still posting the kind of numbers that they are, and they're still playing as well as they are. I think it speaks very well for what they're doing defensively.
All right, Casey, let's take a look inside the NFC East real fast. The Giants are playing Buffalo. Buffalo's another team that plays really good defense. Some people think the Giants are the best team in the East right now. They got the least amount of problems, it almost seems like. So can the Giants bounce on the road? What do you think about that matchup?
I initially had Buffalo winning this matchup, but with McCoy and Watkins now ruled out for this contest, I think I'm going to change my pick to New York, because as talented as Buffalo is and as good as they've been playing so far, when you lose your two top playmakers, and Tyrod Taylor's playing fantastic, but you take those two top playmakers out, I think it really hinders that offense. I think the Giants can be able to do some things. So I probably have the Giants winning that one again. Weather caveat in that one.
Dallas, obviously, they've had all sorts of injury issues. Last week they had a game at home that all of a sudden they slipped away. They're going to New Orleans. Is this New Orleans team shot?
Yeah. I mean, Breeze might be coming back, but he's got a shoulder injury. Their secondary is abysmal. They're talent challenged, and we talked about those Eagles coverage errors. The Saints are making those coverage errors and then some. They're leaving people wide open and making mistakes left and right. They can't stop the run. My only concern about Dallas, their run defense last week might have been the worst run defense I've seen in a single game this season. So if the Saints decide they're going to give them 1-2 punch of Ingram and Spiller, that might be it. It might be a trouble for Dallas. But I don't think the Saints are going to do that. They'll throw the ball still, and I think that's going to be a difference for Dallas.
So inside the NFC after 3 weeks now, handicap what you think moving forward between Philly, Washington, New York, and Dallas. I hate to do that to you.
What we really know right now, I think if I'm looking at these teams, the team that's the most concerning for, let's say, the Eagles, or a team I think that probably has the brightest future, is the Giants. The Giants should be 3-0, or they could be 3-0 if they manage to clock a lot better, and finish out games. And I think the other teams, I don't know that they can necessarily say that they would be 3-0. In fact, I don't think the teams can definitely say that. So I think the Giants, assuming they stay healthy, which has always been some trouble for them for the past, they stay healthy, the way they're playing and the way that they've got playmakers on offense, and their backfield is capable of playing a lot better than what it is. If they start getting those running backs to play better, I think that's a team. I think that could be the most complete team in the NFC East.
So weird how things evolve, and obviously Philadelphia and Washington, the winner of this game, is going to be 2-2. Maybe not the strongest 2-2 in the world, but could be tied for first place depending on what happens with the Dallas Cowboys this weekend. It should be very interesting. Your thoughts on the game tonight, Pittsburgh and the Ravens? Which Michael Vick will we see in your opinion?
I think you're going to see some big plays for both teams out of him. I think he's going to throw some picks that he usually throws. But when you've got Antonio Brown and you've got Le'Veon Bell and you've got the amount of talent that he has around him, and you look at Baltimore's offensive talent, and they don't have very much, and Baltimore's defense is playing abysmal. I mean, almost as bad as the Saints. When you've got that sort of favorable matchup for Pittsburgh, even with what Vic is today, he's not Roethlisberger, and he's not what he was back in his prime, but still, for what he is today, I think Pittsburgh just has too much firepower. I think they win.
All right, that game's tonight on 97.3 ESPN. The coverage starts at 8 o'clock, Thursday Night Football, right here at Chickies and Pete's. We're here every Thursday, and you can come down to watch Thursday Night Football with the over 80 televisions here at Chickies and Pete's. We talked to Casey Joyner on Thursdays. We'll do it again next week when the Eagles get ready to take on the Saints. We'll get his thoughts on that game and all the other NFC East matchups as well. Thanks, pal.
Hey, stay dry, my friend.